noise!
I am pleased to welcome to the Truth and Rhythm Mothership trumpeter Michael Ray, best known since 1978 as a member of a legendary jazz futurist Sun Ra's group known as Orchestra, and for his longtime association with Kool and the Gang. In addition, he leads his own band called Cosmic Krewe, and over the course of several decades has contributed his horn playing to artists that include Patti LaBelle, the Delfonics, the Stylistics, Kleeer, Instant Funk, Jimmy Cliff, Stanton Moore, Aquarium Rescue Unit, Widespread Panic, Deep Banana Blackout, Medeski, Martin, and Wood, Porno for Pyros, Barenaked Ladies, and U2. Thank you for being here, Michael. How are you?
I'm well.
Where are you talking to me from today?
I'm home in Trenton, New Jersey.
Okay.
I moved back here, basically because of my mother. Then she passed 2 years ago, and yeah, it's something.
Well, and that's where you're from originally, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So where had you moved to? Where'd you come back from?
Oh, I've lived in Berlin. I've lived in Philadelphia for quite some time, and I moved out to Kansas City for a minute. It's just globetrotting because my job just takes me all around the world anyway. So, but I came back to Jersey. I rented a house right around the corner from my mother's. And then she said, well, the house is just too much for me. I'm just going to want to move into a one-bedroom apartment. And she said, I want you to move back into the house. But she only took enough stuff for a one-bedroom apartment. So the attic was filled, the basement was filled, closets filled. And then the first day there, the hot water heater blew in the basement and had all this hot water running. So I had to knock out walls, and it was quite a thing. But when I found a journal that she had written, because my mother basically took care of me and my brother, so it was very honorable. So,
well, I know it's been a couple of years, but still my sympathies. I know it's difficult. I lost my dad a few years back and mom before that, so it's never easy to deal with for sure. But was she musical at all? Is your brother musical? Is there music in the household?
No, especially my brother. Back when they had instruments in school, my brother wanted a clarinet and I wanted a trumpet, because I have a cousin, Arthur Brooks, that played with a group called Brute Force. He was a teacher in the college. It was a brain fart now, but he started me playing. He said, you got to try to play one note like you love it. And I was able to produce a sound, so I asked my parents for a trumpet. Back then, you had a music program in schools, and I started that way. And I tell you, the first time I hit a triple C, I was practicing in the bathroom and passed out and woke up with a big smile on my face, looking up at the toilet. So it played with a lot.
How old were you when that happened?
I can't, maybe, shoot, I don't know, 17, 15. It's a blur. But I've been working since then with a lot of groups in Trenton with Instant Funk. And I left town playing with Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells. That's when their hit was I Sold My Heart to the Junk Man. and we do a lot of slide stuff. And they hooked up with Vicky Wickham, who was a manager from England that managed the Who. And they said, well, y'all should come to England with us to get some new material. So they left the band in New York and they went to England. The next thing I heard was Voulez-vous coucher avec moi. So we ended up going out to do a show called The Calibration in San Francisco, where they would tune your radio into a certain frequency and you get stereo quadraphonic sound with quick messengers light service. So we did that, and then just doing a musician thing, you know. Came back to Philadelphia, and I was playing with 4 or 5 different groups. One notably was the Thomas Buck Nasty Band. It's the first time I experienced a wall of sound. And I was played with a big John Menace Big Bone Band. And then we had a show in Vernon Park in Germantown that Sun Ra was on the show. And they had, every musician had these briefcases filled with music that they keep under the stand. And there fire eaters and dancers, and it was kind of bizarre, you know. First time I really heard Sun. So I happened to see him on the trolley. He said, you know, Mr. Ra, I really enjoyed your show. Yeah, why don't you come over to rehearse? And at that time I was playing with the Delfonics, and so I missed that. Later on, I've seen him, and so why don't you come on and rehearsal? Because they went to Egypt, and so anyway, I go over his house. When I walk in Sun Ra's house, there's nothing but milk crates filled with charts and 1/4-inch tapes and cassettes and keyboards and Egyptian art. And, you know, it's funny, I looked in the refrigerator, there was a crate full of music in there. And he told me that I know everything you need to know about music. I said, oh, okay. So you know these standards? So I said, I know a couple. He said, you know Lady Bird? I said, yeah. Well, Lady Bird has the same changes as Half Nelson. So he calls Gilmore downstairs. John, I want you to play Half Nelson. Mikey, play Lady Bird. So he do that. He said, Mike, you play Half Nelson. And John, you play Lady Bird. You know, just tips. Then he said, okay, let's try it in 5/4. And that's when I said, well, wait a minute. So now we will try it in 7/8. Now, John, I want you to solo in C sharp and the tune's in C. They're just creating all this tension. So that went on for hours. And then he said, well, come on over tomorrow. So next thing you know, he calls me and said, what you doing? I'm getting ready to go to Chicago. And we played a jazz showcase, you know. And I had another gig with at the Academy of Music with Delfonics, and I couldn't make the last gig. So he tells me, says, well, tie my shoe. Tie his shoe. You got all these dignitaries in the dressing room, so I tie his shoe. And I'm waiting for my money. He's walking around. Because Sun Ra has a habit of, for the last person standing, he's going to be talking about something. So anyway, he flew me home and gave me some extra money. The next time I heard him, he said, what you doing? I'm in Rome. Why don't you come over and do a record date? And that's how my introduction to Sun Ra started. It was just
as eccentric as you might imagine.
Oh yeah, it was like I got the fire when I first got there because it was just me, John Gilmore, Sun Ra, and Luke Bonale doing a quartet thing for Horror Records. And then I learned Sun Ra would wake up at dawn every day, he'd do business. Me and John Gilman would go rehearse. I played everything I knew. John's still doing long terms in his home, you know, and just the ferocity of it. Then I'd come back in Sunrise show, and we would rehearse until we fell asleep. Then we had good friends, Alfie. He actually invented the Walkman and sold the rights to Sony. So anyway, one thing I did notice that my chops were a lot stronger because he had me, oh no, you over into the human thing, you know, you got to play like this. Try it again. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. No. Oh, human frailties. Go off there, learn a Henry Red Allen solo. You learn this. And so I've had some great musical coaches from Sun Ra, John Gilmore, and now even Marshall Allen. You know, so you have to play the unduplicatable, or you can be replaced by a button. And that was on 4. So I'm getting ready to try to put it all down so you see the chronological history.
Well, let me ask you, Michael, though, before you connected with Sun Ra, who were a couple of your biggest trumpet influences or heroes on the instrument?
Oh, I've had so many. I mean, John Faddis, we did a tribute to Johnny Kool and Henry McMillian, and you know, he plays for UGO Orchestra. You know, he's a very savvy businessman. You know, but I was brought up on Miles. You know, my father used to listen to all that My Favorite Things, and I'd be a kid and watching the Christmas lights going and listening to Miles and Train. And so that left an indelible mark. So then actually to play with some of these cats, you know, even now, it's like we had Arturo Sandoval sitting with Kool and the gang when we played out in Australia. You know, his cat, he just plays keyboards, like, you know, but his chops, you know, it's just amazing, you know. I've been influenced by everybody I listen to, you know. James McDonald, he's bad cat. There's so many bad cats now, you know.
At what point did you realize or decide that music was going to be your career?
Well, I don't even remember. Basically, when you feel the joy that you partake to other people, to other humans, you know. I mean, from when I first started playing, my first compliment, I used to go out to Cowboy Park and practice, and these winos out there drinking, and this guy said, I don't hear no wrong notes. That was my first compliment. Yeah. So it's like playing with some of the members of MFSB. And as a kid, I would always like to scream, but Fred, not Wesley, he was Fred Joyner, trombone player, big session caddy. We're playing, he turned around and said, it'd be great if you played that stuff in tune. And that was a big wake-up call. So, and then my son, he's classically trained. It's a big thing, you know. Let me tell you this. He gave me this thing, Paganini, to practice, Molto Perpetuo. And I noticed that I'm starting to get it. So I said, son, you know, it's great that you gave me that. My playing is improving. My son says, well, Dad, you just don't know how bad you sounded. So
How old is he now?
He's 30 and change, I guess, you know. He's playing Barca Nova. One group is playing. It's all classical, you know. So, you know.
Must be proud of that.
Oh, yeah. Big time. You know, for a young black cat to try to survive the pandemic in New York with no gigs, and he's sticking to it, you know, so That's impressive.
So, probably my favorite Sun Ra album, because, I'm a funk and funk jazz guy more than a hardcore jazz person, Languidity, which you were on and you were part of, right? So
yeah.
What do you remember, if anything, about that session or that process?
They had constructed a pyramid over the mixing console. And Sun Ra said, you can't harness this music. It made the cats take it down. I think that's something we did on Philly Jazz or something. So, and then, Sun Ra and I have an affinity for recording because we did at Variety Arts Studio in New York about 7 albums. And one story was like, as we're doing the mix down, Sun Ra was in the chair, he fell asleep, so we set the board up. And he said, Sonny, how does that sound? He opens his eyes, sounds horrible. And went back to sleep. So we do some other things, and he said, Sonny, how does that sound? He said, oh, y'all over into the human thing. Hand me the phone. So he calls Philadelphia. He tells Pico, he said, I want you to go in the chaos room and get this drum, like a drum case filled with cassettes, not cassettes, reel-to-reels. So he brings them up to the studio. And if you listen to one of his records, I think on Jupiter, it's a slice that we flew in this record. It's really something, And Sonny, when he came to record, he put the in and the out, just get aside. So we go off in Europe, we check out these different instruments, and I try to take notes. He said, don't do that, I'm creating, plug this in, because when R.A. Moog gave some the 2600 art, he would put the in and the outs and do this, and he said, oh, I like that. And R.A. Moog, he asked him, well, I've made some modifications. Can you send the instrument back? So I said, I got what I want, And even with Kool in the gang, Khalees, he had a ARP 2600 that he gave me that somehow got lost in the mix when I had to try to get it repaired in New Orleans. But the patch bay is like you got all the plugins, and you create your own sound. But now they got a touch of a button for synthesizers, So, but he was.
Was there ever anything that you came up with or blew out of your horn that Sun Ra was just like, yeah, let's do that?
Oh yeah, well, one of the first gigs I did with Sun Ra, we played one of the amphitheaters in Italy. And Sun Ra, he said, Mike, you go out there and you got it. And so it's like, that's the first time, because he would send different instruments out, and then he would come out so on this particular time, we had about 20 people in the band. It's just me in this big amphitheater, the same like the Coliseums that used to would have killed, and they had a natural echo. So I had fun, Yeah, and I still enjoy playing with echo. But there were times when somebody, you would look at him and he'd look like a little spirit or a child or a griot or something, And he had this little smile. He was, yeah. And to this day, that's some of the stuff that I really miss because all we did was rehearse. You do 12, 15, 18 hours a day for years. But back then I said, well, Sun Ra, I'm trying to go to the movies. He said, well, perhaps, but you're fighting a battle on this planet. You got to be swinging on your horn. Now play this. And it was constant. as we would rehearse, you know, he would like sometimes just fall asleep at the keyboard. And you hear, and cats grab the music, try to sneak out the room and try it again. So, and you know, like when he passed, that's part of what I really missed, because you know what you're gonna be doing all day. He put on a pot of moon stew, which is like a African spicy vegetable soup, and you smell that while we're rehearsing. Mike, go back and put some kale in the soup, and then put some okra in it, you know. So after 5 or 6 hours, you're smelling this stuff. You go stay till the soup's ready, you know, rehearsal's over. And then someone would come to rehearsal late. Say, oh, now I got to change the arrangement because I got to tailor make this to the spirit. So now a lot of the energy that Sunlight is rehearsal. You know.
Did he ever spend much time listening to any other artists, or was he just always so immersed in his thing?
He was always creating. I know he had a conversation with Miles Davis' brother some time back, and his brother was trying to get him to look at Mr. Sunrise. So nobody's playing all that stuff. Even with Winton, you know, I had a conversation with Winton. You know, now we're in New Orleans, and somehow they didn't ship the music, and he was missing his horn, so he had to borrow his horn from, I think, Irvin Mayfield. And he said, man, as much as you play them cats, they should memorize that stuff. Then Sunrubber, and when he said, Sunrubber write all the music, he ain't write the music. And Mike Gurrier said, don't say nothing. Don't say nothing. So, and when, you know, I mean, I guess when he first started, he had both the classical thing going, and I first met him at North Sea Jazz Festival with Sam Rivers, you know, and then I've got his brother Delfio, the trombone player, on one of my records, and you know, even Jason, his son, it's just musical families in New Orleans, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely in the water, in the blood, whatever, you know.
Oh yeah, I mean, I just had a gig after the Jazz Fest down in Kermit Ruffin's joint, you know, and now Kermit Ruffin, we go way back, you know. It's like you heard about his girlfriend getting shot a couple months back. You know, his girlfriend was pregnant; she got shot. Wow. She survived, and you know.
Oh, that's good.
So he's taking over a club. It's called Mother-in-Laws, which is it's right up the street where I used to live. Now it's actually going back with the history. Ernie Cato, he had a song that was a hit called "Mother-in-Law, Mother-in-Law."
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And he said when she was buried, he would go put some cement with a 24-hour guard so she don't escape. Mm-hmm. So they weren't feeling each other. So Kermit bought the place, you know, and it's a nice little venue, you know. So I mean, I first got with Kermit when I first moved to New Orleans. They wanted a fanfare, like what's called the Bousselet, you know, where the guests would come in here, a fanfare from trumpets. So I, even though he didn't read music, you know, I don't know if but he's got that stuff. It's inbred, you know. There's a lot of cats like that. You know.
Let me ask you, Michael, how did you initially connect with Kool and the Gang?
Oh, that's funny because I was doing a gig called the New Music Festival at Carnegie Hall with Sunlight, and we were on the show. They had, for the opening act, was a choir of singers, like maybe 25 humans and 9 dogs. So they cue the humans, they all start barking. then they stop, and then they cue the dogs that, oh, and then they go back to the humans. So that was the first time playing with some at Carnegie Hall. So after, Carnegie Hall, they put this shit on the corner of the street. So we packing up after the concert thing. So I see somebody didn't drive to Philly. So I'm standing on the corner. Where's the money? And somebody said, you got to move to Philadelphia to get paid. And I said, well, shit, I know where I can go. And that's when I went to Kool in the office. And he flew to the month rehearsals in Oakwood Gardens in California. And then
you cold called, or you already knew those guys?
Well, Clifford Adams is my oldest friend, and he played with Kool. So I had recorded with these cats down at Light Sound in Philly years ago. So they knew about me, And Clifford, he picks him, man, Mike keep the horn in his mouth. Because Spike was missing, and Larry wanted to go in the Army, so I got the call. For years, my name was what's the name? Yeah. And
the first recording was 78 with them. The what's that record called? Everybody's Dancing. Everybody's Dancing.
It was like before, I think, because this record's called You Deserve a Break Today. Get on up and get away. And it hit me to the way college record. It's like making gumbo. They'd stack so much stuff and then take the parts out, didn't work, and Also, Fat Larry, we would record like that. The Fat Larry would be on the way to the studio. How's it going? Well, we're getting ready to do it. Okay, I'll be there. But Carlos has a unique way of recording. And that's between him and George Brown, the drummer. A lot of the music came that way. Although we had a prodigy, Kirk Williams, called Fitz. He was a young kid, believe me, he's our musical director now. Hard job to do when you're working with crazy people, but it works.
Well, you were on so many hit recordings with them, though, and what a difference. It's like you were kind of living two different musical lives, right? With the Sun Ra and with the Kool and the Gang pop stuff.
Oh, that's true. Because I'd get out of a limo and go play with Sun Ra in New York, and it's the best of both worlds. And then we've, even with the big old nasty Get Down, no, not them, Barenaked Ladies. It was Kevin Hearn, who was a guitar piano player with them. We've been doing some projects. One, my wife Lorana, she wrote the words and sang on it, and actually I did a gig coming back from Europe and went right to the gig. So, and he's a beautiful person, So, but you look out, there'll be she dropped a record called La Funkalicious. She covers a jazz Joshua Redman tune called Jazz Crimes. So she's in the process of doing that right now, and I'm just getting ready to go back to Europe. I'm gonna do this Sun Ra gig in London, and then they're gonna fly me to Spain, Barcelona, and to continue. And this itinerary runs like until December. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of dates fall through because the Omicron it's like working for a virus. So no, you're not gonna do that, but So
what'd you do with yourself during the shutdown of the pandemic?
Well, I basically just get my knees together because I had double knee replacement. So that's it's just trying to adjust this to this hand that God dealt me.
Did you practice while you were down?
Oh yeah, did a couple music projects and I recorded some stuff. It's like the stuff even during the pandemic. I put a little blurb out of what happened during the pandemic, but believe me, I've been blessed. Yeah. So now just to make sure I make this flight this Sunday, going to San Diego, and then we play the July 4th thing out there and come back, and then go up at Foxwoods and also Maryland. Something, it's like 4 runs, and then I'll be back.
Well, before we part ways, I'll definitely we'll remind viewers where to go to get all that information and keep up with where you're at and your music and everything good like that. Hey, Michael, tell us something about playing with Kool and the Gang in the 80s.
Well, one thing was JT was an entertainer's entertainer. So as far as the visuals and all that stuff, and it was like we had 3 tractor trailers out. We carried our own stage and kept one in Europe. And me as a young kid, I thought it would never change. But just the business of how it is, you have to change with the times. Even now, Kool's got a little niche. He's developed his own Le Kool champagne that is doing very well. He got it out of France, and it's in the States too. In fact, I seen one auction, they got $12,000 for a bottle of champagne. So that's a little side hustle, because Kool hasn't changed a bit since I've known him. He's always been doing the business. I remember back when his wife who passed, she wouldn't want him to come out with the phone. So then they invented the Bluetooth. He's always on the phone. So I got much respect for him. And then George Brown, he has been years, So, I've been out here 50-some years playing with these cats, and there's always been a lot of love.
How would you approach doing one of their shows versus a Sun Ra show? How would it be different for you?
Well, one thing with Kool, there's certain songs we have to play. So we got slots like 90-minute shows, 75-minute show. We went to Egypt to play for 20 minutes, So, but with Sun Ra, every show is different. When before Sun Ra passed, it's like sometimes, after you had the second stroke, he played a bridge for 7.5 beats, and it was changed. But I said, well, now this cat's a master musician. If he wants to go early, so it expanded your ears, because you have to play what you hear. My son said, play what you don't know. Marshall, but what you hear, and you have to be able to emulate what you hear same time you hear it. So years of practicing that, because he might call anything. And Marshall, he's double Gemini too, so the tradition continues.
You must have played some very large venues with Kool and the Gang.
Oh yeah. We did one that we did in Nairobi. There's this big sign that said, "It's nice to know when you will die from AIDS." So that's the Nairobi handshake. Girl just comes up and grabs your crotch. Say hello. And they got a roving gangs of kids, machetes. So.
But the music is universal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Especially you go to Japan, you're seeing people that can't speak English, but sing all the songs. Sometimes get up and start doing the routines, and so it's definitely an impact. The Kool in the Gang, it's undeniable.
Do you have any personal preference, like, in terms of the material, like with Kool and the Gang? Do you prefer playing some of the older stuff, like Jungle Boogie and, more
Well,
of
we play
more of
that.
the jazzier funk, or do you prefer playing more of the more recent more pop stuff?
Well, especially like Jungle Boogie, Open Sesame. We do the hits, And I've been working on a tribute to colleagues and DT and Charles, and just to go through some of the stuff that was popular, but we don't play anymore. So colleagues wrote a lot of songs. So did George. But it's a humor, Mr. Gigantor project. Especially when I'm not here.
I love some of that older stuff.
Yeah, well, I've spoken to Colleagues' wife and DT's wife and Kool's kids about, so they know about what's going on with it. But until I really take some time out to sit down and really plan and you do all that,
Do you get any solo spots when you play with them?
Solo
spots.
Yeah, I get a solo on Jungle Boogie. So that's one song. Trombone gets one on. I can really get down on it. So it's so nice. I don't know that because playing, the way you got to hear the sound. It's very challenging. Just to keep up. So I'm gonna jump off the tour. I got Robbie Best, trumpet player. He played with Michael Jackson and us, and he's out with Blood, Sweat, and Tears. He's gonna sub for me when I go to London to play with Sun Ra. So it's 2 dates, and he's a bad. He's a great. But I play, playing with Spike and with Skip, and it's. I play with Larry Giddens. He's also from Jersey.
How was the show? How are the shows different now? After Sun Ra left us, how did the shows change, or did they not change that much?
Well, Noel's calling a lot of songs. I'm really not there rehearsing the way I should do, but it's whatever. You just got to be up. I mean, I got enough music here, so it's a challenge. I got to brush up on a lot of stuff, but every show is different.
But I mean, Sun Ra passed away in like '93. So if you saw the orchestra in the '80s versus seeing them, in the 2000s, how is it different, do you think?
Well, it's a lot of personalities that are not there, but the music goes on. James Stewart, he's been playing tenor, and he's really got his stuff going on. And we got another alto player. We got strong trombone section. And then Noel, he's playing baritone. You got singers. It's like there's a lot of stuff going on. Yeah.
There's much more to this great Truth and Rhythm interview. Just continue on to the next part of the episode. Also, be sure to subscribe to this channel. If you've already done so, please share it with friends. And become a member by joining Truth and Rhythm on Patreon, or consider donating at funkinstuff.net. Thank you very much.